Welcome to Forest Ecology. Today we're going to talk about Carolina bays. Carolina bays are isolated wetlands found in natural shallow depressions. They are often fed by rain or shallow groundwater. This means that they can hold water for many days to all year, but some of them can dry up completely. They range in size from less than an acre to many acres. They also support a variety of wildlife. And at the Savannah River site in the lower area of the state, 60% of our rare and threatened species are found within these Carolina Bay ecosystems. Carolina Bays are natural depressions that kind of cover the landscape along the Atlantic coastal plain. We don't know exactly how they formed, although there's several different theories. In this image, you can see several dozen Carolina bays, although most of them have been turned into crop fields for farming, and in a lot of areas they are being filled in so that development can occur from housing and businesses. They serve a vital function, however. They are a means of flood control. They provide water. They help us have quality water. They are erosion control. They provide critical wildlife habitat and recreational opportunities for us. The Carolina Bay has site factors, disturbance, and a community that all play into their productivity. With site factors, you must consider the soils, the topography, and the climate. Disturbance would be things like fire, drought, and flooding, and the community consists of plants, animals, and the microorganisms that live there. Soils in these bays can vary from bay to bay. Typically, though, they are deep organic soils. They have sandy rims, which are home to things like pitcher plants and Venus flytraps. The clay lens or sand iron humate complex help them hold water. The soils are highly acidic, and flooding is often present, although not always persistent. Carolina bays are found in the Atlantic coastal plain. They are elliptical depressions with a northwest to southeast orientation. They are isolated, meaning that they are not attached to any navigable body of water. That also means that they have no natural drainage. The physiography, the topography, and the climate are going to drive the hydrology of these ecosystems. This is going to be dependent on how deep the water is and how many days these areas are inundated with water. Climate has an impact on the hydrology of these lakes. The rainfall and the temperature is going to matter. Warmer and drier means fewer days of inundation, while cooler and wetter means more days of inundation. Lightning is going to drive fires, and drought will affect the days of inundation as well as the fire intensity within these ecosystems. Fire is a disturbance that can be small to large in frequency and scale. But how does fire drive plant composition and succession within these ecosystems? And can a lack of fire be considered a disturbance? If you have species that have co-evolved with fire, they may be completely dependent on fire for dispersal and regeneration. So just because fire may be considered bad for some ecosystems, there are other ecosystems that are completely dependent upon it. However, a large scale fire with a large severity would be detrimental to an area like this. This was a fire in the Okefenokee Swamp in 2011. This fire was so large scale that it consumed 6 feet of peat, right? The average human isn't even 6 feet tall. As a forester, one of the things that we practiced was fire suppression for many years, but we're now seeing that fire is a beneficial part of ecosystems. So when we get out there and we are doing prescribed burns, by doing so, we are venting these extremely large scale disturbances, right? We're giving that ecosystem the small scale that it needs for productivity and reproductivity, but we are eliminating these sort of disastrous ecological impacts. Another disturbance could be drought. Drought can decrease water levels, reduce the days of inundation, and increase the fire potential. Think about a community that is dependent on water and the water is present year round. If you take that water away, you're going to have a lot of species that will suffer from it. But remember, some of these areas are not prone to constant water levels. So this would be considered flooding, and the species within this area could be negatively impacted with the increased water levels, the increased days of inundation, and the decrease in fire potential. There are two successional paths for Carolina bays. You have one where no fire is present, and the final stage would end up being Atlantic white cedar. Or you can have fire present, which is going to reset those seral stages and bring you back to a shrub bog over and over again. Many ecologists do not agree on the seral stages of an evergreen bay forest, also known as the Carolina bays. The composition of these bays are driven by the hydrology, climate, fire, and soils. So, depending on the hydrology and the level of fire and what soils are present, you're going to see different types of plants and animals. But typically, these areas are dominated by your loblolly bay, your sweet bay, and your red bay. The animal community here will be favored by species who need both aquatic and terrestrial habitats. Frogs and salamanders are something that you're going to find a tremendous amount of within these ecosystems. We have two in South Carolina, the gopher frog and the flatwood salamander, that are endangered. So losing these Carolina bays could literally wipe these species out. But also, we have birds, mammals, and zooplankton that depend on the community interactions that happen within Carolina bays. The plant community at the landscape scale is going to drive the plant and animal diversity. But keep in mind that when we're looking at the community, we cannot look at just the bay itself, but also the landscape surrounding the bay. Think about how this is going to impact your forest management. When you're out there and you're doing surveys, you need to look at what types of plants and ecosystems are in the adjacent area, because what you're doing within that forest ecosystem can have a direct impact on the surrounding community. There will be two videos that I want you guys to watch so that you can truly understand how important the diversity of these bays really are.